Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Robert San. Here we uncover the stories and strategies of how money really moves. Today we're turning the spotlight on the Philippine economy and asking how our young population can turn potential into progress. Are we building a future that works for them, or are they just trying to survive it? To help us make sense of the numbers and the nation's next steps, we're joined by Professor Bernardo Villegas of the University of Asia and the Pacific. Good afternoon, Professor. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Robert. Yes.
Thanks for joining us. Professor, let's start with this. Now, the Philippines has one of Asia's youngest population. Are we turning this into real economic growth, or is the window closing in on us?
We are definitely turning it into a tremendous market. You know, we missed the boat in what was called in the last century an export-oriented industrialization. We tried to protect our industries, but they never grew because they became infants that were actually already adults. I'm sure you remember the character Bonjing in that period. Our industries became Bonjings. And that's why for a while, in the last century, we became the sick man of Asia. We were left behind by the tiger economies. But now, our growing and young population has become a big domestic market, so that even if we can no longer compete with our neighbors in exporting cars, computers, all types of manufactured products, we can now turn towards a huge domestic market, and manufacturing can reach economies of scale. So that's one advantage of a huge young market. So that's the first part.
Yeah.
At the same time, that young labor force is now a tremendous asset, first of all, in the BPO IT, with almost 1.8 million people earning $40 billion a year. So that's a tremendous opportunity for us. And that definitely is immune to the ups and downs that are now being a result of the Trump policies. We are still seeing growth in that sector. And not to mention our more than 10 million overseas workers who are bringing also about $40 billion into our market, equipping our population with purchasing power.
But, Professor, with rising inflation and the high cost of living, are young Filipinos able to prepare for the future, or are they just surviving?
Well, first of all, we have to congratulate our central bank. Our central bank is one of the best central banking systems in Southeast Asia. They've been so adept in fighting inflation. You know, 10 years ago when we had an inflation of 10%, people were not yet worried. Right now, when our inflation is at 1.5%, people are worried, which means our standards have changed. We now expect a lot from our monetary officials. They're doing a good job. Inflation is no longer a big threat to the Philippine economy. I see that at lower than even 2% for the whole year this year. And I think the central bank has all the tools to be able to control that inflation. So that's the first thing. Inflation is no longer a serious problem as compared to the past. Now, our biggest scandal is 16% of our population is below the poverty line. That really stands out like a sore thumb, because most of our neighbors have almost 0%. Malaysia is 0%, Vietnam is 3%, Thailand is 2%. Here we have 13%. There's about 20 million people who are going to bed hungry. So
that's a big chunk of the population, Professor.
Exactly. But precisely because we have a huge population of 120 million, we have close to 90 million people who have enough purchasing power to be in that market that I referred to. You know, 90 million is bigger than practically every other Southeast Asian economy except Indonesia, and of course, compared to China and India, they're small. But if 90 million is a big market enough for us to be able to grow our economy.
Now, Professor, as we look to our younger generation for economic boost, as well as a growing part of our nation building, when we look at Asia's economic tigers turning their young populations into growth engines, what lessons must the Philippines take and what should we do differently?
Well, we have to readjust our educational system so that we produce more people with technical skills, plumbers, mechanics, all types of people who can work with their hands. We have overproduced college graduates who are good for nothing. So that is our big mistake in human resource development. But that's changing. In his second State of the Nation address, President BBM actually said we have to change our K to 12 so that more and more of them will be attracted to the TESDA type of schools. And we have now a very good Director General of TESDA. I think I'm very optimistic that that shift is going to happen. And now the whole industry is talking about enterprise-based learning. So industry will be very proactive. They will actually participate together with our schools in training more technical workers.
Now, Professor, how fast do you think can that happen? Looking at it right now, where many graduates end up underemployed or in low-paying jobs. Now, what does this reveal to you about our education system and training systems today, and what should happen now if we want this to happen quickly?
Precisely, a very strong partnership among the government, business enterprises, and the schools themselves. And I see that happening in a very quick way. Well, I sit on the board of probably one of the top technical schools called Dual Tech that started 30 years ago. That's training thousands and thousands of poor young people into electromechanical workers, and they are literally absorbed immediately by factories, and a good number of them are going abroad. For example, Sasa Technique is employing a lot of them in maintaining and repairing airplanes all over the world. That can happen to more and more schools. In fact, TESDA is using Dual Tech and some other outstanding technical schools as role models so that the others can follow their example.
Professor, we still have much to discuss, especially how the educational system can help better prepare our young generation entering the market as graduates. But before you answer that, Professor, we'll take a short break. Follow the money. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Follow the Money. Still with us is Professor Bernardo Villegas of the University of Asia and the Pacific. Now, Professor, before the break, we were talking about how the educational system can change in terms of better preparation for the younger generation. What kind of skills or industries do you think young Filipinos should focus on today, and what kind of teaching should the schools have to better prepare them as they graduate and find jobs in the future?
Well, first of all, as I said, a lot of the factories that we will be developing will cater to the domestic market. So one whole industry that needs a lot of people would be agribusiness, from farming all the way up to the finished product. So I always remind people that agribusiness is not just at the farming level. It's storage, it's especially cold storage, it's logistics, supply chain, processing the raw material all the way up to the finished product. Farming as a percentage of GDP is only 10%. Agribusiness is 30%. So that's why we need a lot of people. That would definitely be an area where we have to train people for the different links of the agribusiness industry. Then we still have to develop people for electronics and semiconductor devices, which account for 60% of our exports. And there is a tremendous possibility that we are going to go higher and higher in the value chain, because right now we're producing low level type of electronics and semiconductor devices. Most of the high level ones are in China. But the geopolitical opportunity, because the US and Japan are very nervous that a lot of their chip uh, production is happening in China. And so they can be actually held hostage, especially in those chips that are for the military industry. So they're thinking of taking away some of those Chinese factories. Of course, Trump thinks that he can bring them all back to the States. That's unrealistic. The States has very high wages, and a lot of Americans don't want to work anymore in those types of industries. The Philippines now has a tremendous opportunity. In fact, I don't know if you've heard of the Luzon Economic Corridor that Japan and the US are planning to help us to put up improved infrastructure there, that's from Batangas all the way to Bataan. And once we have better infrastructures, then some of these higher value electronics and semiconductor components can actually relocate in that so-called Luzon Economic Corridor.
Now, Professor, going back again at looking at our educational system, you're mentioning we should prepare in terms of technical skills, agri skills, and other skills that could help us elevate. But do you think the school should also focus on teaching our younger generation more financial literacy skills?
Definitely, that's part of the skills needed even by a worker. So, financial subjects are not only for people taking a college degree. More and more, these technical schools include basic financial literacy as part of the curriculum. And there's another thing that's happening. More and more training is happening, not informal, long-term uh, curriculum.
Yes.
There are a lot of micro credentials, short courses,
Yes,
and that
outside. Yes, outside.
exactly, which a lot of them can even be delivered online. People can now take courses online. For example, a short course on finance can be given in, let's say, 50 hours, but in online fashion. So that's another thing that's changing.
But do you
People no
think
longer
that should
think,
be embedded into the educational system in terms of teaching, even at the grade school level, financial literacy?
oh, definitely, definitely. And there can be certain packages that can be developed. And this is where academe should play a part, because it's the expertise of academe to develop programs, whether degree programs or non-degree programs. And that's where industry is now counting on both universities and technical schools to help them. Now,
Now,
the role of the
yes,
industry is very important,
yes.
because the best way to train people is what is known as dual voc, which the Germans perfected. Classroom work. And,
Yes.
and that is why I said dual tech is a model school. So they are given theoretical classes in the school, and then they're sent to companies to apply, and that is a more effective way of developing skills rather than pure academics.
So it's basically a mix of traditional and progressive teaching. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, exactly.
Now,
But you need a close coordination between academe and industry.
yeah. Now, Professor, if we look now at our overseas Filipino workers, we still see that millions still work overseas, but they do bring a lot of help in terms of our economy because of the
Definitely.
remittances. But does that also highlight the lack of opportunities we have here at home?
Oh, definitely. Well, because precisely we became the Sigma of Asia, we made many wrong moves in managing our economy. We did not have the jobs that our young people were looking for. And so a good number of them, I said 10 million, are abroad. That's a large number. That will not increase as much in the future once all of these jobs I'm talking about are made available here because of the growth of these industries, both manufacturing, services. For example, one big area where you have millions of people working would be tourism and hospitality. Once we put up world-class airports and improve our infrastructures, the Philippines will be one of the leading countries in tourism. We have the best, we're declared as the country with the best beach destination in the world. And Palawan has been declared as the best tourism island in the world. But we've not been using those assets because we did not have the infrastructures.
And if we look at
now,
the overseas Filipino workers, we're also seen as the best also, let's say, the best nurses out there, the best
Exactly.
in technology, graphic design, and all these. So
Exactly.
is that part and parcel of how can the business community and the government work to lessen the brain drain?
Yeah, well, definitely we have to invest more and more, for example, in hospitals, in health, and pay our nurses better salaries. The same thing with the teachers. And it's happening. There are groups like NU and others that are now targeting 50,000 pesos for the teachers. And actually, our public schools are not bad. They're paying our teachers 30,000, of course, compared to what they will get in the United States and Japan. That's still small. But that's why I'm saying, now I'm talking about the future.
Now,
Thanks.
yes.
Yeah,
Now,
thanks to our
yes.
thanks to our young and growing population, we will always have people for both foreign work and domestic employment. And even if we become a first world country, where people, let's say a family now makes an average of 100,000 pesos a month, so that would make us already. The developed world is disappearing from this planet. They're not producing babies. So
Yes.
there will always be opportunity, even if families are already earning 100,000 pesos a month in the Philippines, and there's no reason for them to call themselves poor. You will always have Japan offering them 300,000.
Yes. Now-
Germany, 200,000,
Yes.
etc.
Now-
So you will always have,
Yes.
you cannot force these people to stay here.
Yes,
One
true.
one of the freedoms is the freedom to choose where to stay. We will always have Filipinos precisely because
To
we're
go
the only
somewhere.
ones that have a growing labor force.
Now, Professor, if we look now at the issues surrounding the country, do you believe that today's young Filipinos are much better prepared to fight corruption and demand transparency than past generations?
I see that more and more now. Well, especially with the situation we're facing with all those crooks in Congress and in DPWH. You see now the young people really very indignant and joining all sorts of protest moves. I think we're coming to a turning point.
Hopefully,
we'll
within,
not be able to.
yes.
We'll not be able to eradicate corruption 100%.
But at least lessen
But
it, yes.
We can lessen it definitely.
Now, Professor, we have this part of the show where we go on our rapid fire round questions. You just have to answer yes or no. You don't need to explain your answer. We'll start with this. If Gen Z were in charge of the economy tomorrow, would you see more startups than sari-sari stores? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Can a meme sometimes explain inflation better than a professor? Yes or no?
Yes.
That's what coming from a professor. Okay, let's go to the next. If every young Filipino planted a mango tree, would we solve both jobs and food security? Yes or
I
no?
would say yes, but I would say bamboo. No.
Bamboo, yeah, better.
There's tremendous demand for bamboos, yes.
Now, are side hustles officially the new career path today? Yes or no?
I beg your pardon? Yeah? Repeat.
Are the side hustles officially the new career path today?
Oh, yes.
And if corruption had a cancel button, Professor, would the Philippines finally go viral for the right reasons? Yes or no?
Yes, definitely, absolutely.
And finally, complete the sentence. Money is the root of all.
Well, I would say evil, because money can be the root of a lot of good things also. So,
Yes. Hopefully more good than evil. Okay. Thank you,
Exactly.
Professor, for your insights. And of course, hopefully our education system will better prepare our younger generation as they graduate and be part of nation building. Thank you, Professor.
Could just add one more thing?
Okay.
It's not only education. You know, a lot of our young people, no matter how good the teachers are not able to absorb what they're learning because in their childhood they were undernourished, underfed, and their brains were destroyed. We have to solve that. That's why
that's
food
one
security,
thing we need to do. Food security is very important. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
When talking about the power of education and its role in shaping the nation's future, the words of Nelson Mandela ring true for every Filipino. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And the future of the Philippine economy rests on the shoulders of its young people, one of the youngest populations in Asia. But the big question remains, are we turning this demographic strength into real progress, or are we letting the window close? From jobs and education to technology and governance, the choices we make today will define whether our youth become the drivers of growth or the victims of a system that failed to prepare them. I'm Robert Tan. Stay curious, stay sharp, and always follow the money.